Eloise broke my heart. I know I should have been more thoughtful and mature about the whole situation. But deep down, I'm still a farm boy, even after all these years. My name is Walter Stillman, a future tax attorney. I know, it's not the most exciting career path. I had just graduated law school and was pursuing a Master of Laws in Taxation. My first job was in the bankruptcy department of a mid-sized Manhattan law firm. My position was in the smallest and least desirable practice area of the firm. My living situation wasn't much better. New York City rents were sky high, and as a junior employee, living in Manhattan was out of the question. Even in the outer boroughs, prices were almost as high. After a long search, I found a small room in an apartment with two other struggling souls at the end of a subway line in Brooklyn. The area was run down, and my commute to the office felt endless. To sum it up, I had a modest job and a roof over my head, but not much else. That's how my career in the great city began. However, my luck changed almost as soon as I started working. The bankruptcy partner at the firm, Eric Erickson, was a sharp, gray-haired veteran in his early 60s. He was one of the top experts in New York bankruptcy law, the go-to guy for complex cases. Eric had little patience for incompetence, but was an excellent teacher. He became my mentor, teaching me skills that would serve me for years to come. Under his guidance, I found my place in the world, but I still needed to heal my broken heart. I moved into the apartment after Eloise and I got together. She was 29 years old and working as an associate manager at Sanderson Financial Management. She was already on the path to senior management and became a vice president shortly after we got engaged. Eloise was smart and meticulous, but her organizational skills still surprised me. She planned our wedding in just 6 weeks. Eloise was the eldest of 3 children and the only daughter. Her father, also a lawyer, worked in real estate development in Westchester and Putnam counties, north of New York City. He was very interested in politics, which might explain why the family wanted a big, well-organized wedding. On my side, I didn't have much family left. It was just me and my sister, Nancy, who lived on the West Coast near Portland. She stopped talking to me after coming out as a lesbian, probably because I wasn't as supportive as I should have been. It created a gap between us that I couldn't close. I invited her to the wedding, but she refused. My career had settled into a steady, if unexciting, rhythm. I was starting to handle more cases on my own without Eric's constant guidance. He made it clear that he was grooming me to take over once he retired. You've got what it takes, intelligence and a pleasant personality, but you need to learn how to work efficiently, Eric said. I worked hard, studying laws and cases diligently. But Eric often reminded me that there were techniques and strategies you couldn't find in a textbook. The Friday before the wedding, Eloise and her mother had chosen Labor Day for the ceremony. It was an early date, but it also gave us the long weekend to prepare and enough time for a honeymoon in the Caribbean, a gift from her parents. Our suitcases were already packed and lined up in the long hallway of our apartment. 3 for Eloise and 1 for me. That morning, I had a hearing in bankruptcy court. It was supposed to be a routine case involving the approval of a resolution for a debtor's reorganization. However, just as I was about to head to court, the judge's clerk called to set up a telephone hearing instead. Amanda, a sharp and knowledgeable bank lawyer, presented her arguments clearly during the call. The judge, clearly in a hurry, ruled against me without much discussion. Amanda laughed afterward and explained, "Judge marks his tickets for the Saratoga races this afternoon. He didn't have time for us today, although I didn't like the way the case was handled." Amanda found it amusing and said, "Take the win where you can get it." After the hearing, Eric told me to take the day off and relax before the wedding. I decided to head to Westchester early to see Eloise. I called her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Then I called her parents' house to leave a message. That call changed everything. The housekeeper, who didn't speak much English, told me, "She's not here. She's in the city, staying at a hotel." I was confused. Why would Eloise be in the city, so close to the wedding? Out of curiosity, I asked for the name of the hotel, and she said, "The Plaza." I wasn't naturally suspicious, but this seemed odd. I called the Plaza Hotel and asked if Eloise Schaefer was staying there. They said no. On a hunch, I asked for Rodrigo Ruiz. After a pause, the receptionist replied, "Mr. and Mrs. Rodney Kaufman are staying in the honeymoon suite." My heart sank. When the receptionist connected me, a man's voice answered. "Eloise Schaefer, please," I said. "El, it's for you," he said, handing her the phone. "Hello," she said. I froze for a moment, but then I found my voice. "Eloise, don't bother coming to the wedding. I won't be there," I said and hung up. Her scream of my name echoed as I put the phone down. My mind was in lockdown. I knew I needed to get up, grab my suitcase from the hallway, and leave. I had no idea where to go, but staying wasn't an option. Someone opened the apartment door. It was her. I vaguely wondered how she got back so quickly. Glancing at my watch, I saw it was already 2 p.m. The judge should have been at the races by now, a detail that felt oddly significant. "Walter, we need to talk," she said. "Have you been there all week?" I asked. She stood in the middle of the living room, her eyes carefully avoiding mine. "We just said goodbye," she said. "So it didn't end like that." I replied, "Walter, stop it. You know I love you. How do I know that? I'll never see him again." "We broke up," she said, her voice faltering. "Why?" "I've been with him for 7 years, almost from the day I moved to the city." "No." "Why finish now?" "Because I'm marrying you on Monday," she said. "No, you're not." "Walter, please be reasonable. Everything is arranged. Over 300 guests are coming," she said, her voice shaking. I didn't answer. There was no point. I stood up and walked past her, grabbing my suitcase. "Where are you going?" "We must work this out," she cried. I kept walking. She followed me, screaming for me to stop, but eventually she gave up. I wandered aimlessly for hours. Darkness crept in as I realized I was heading toward the bridge. Exhausted, I crossed Court Street near City Hall and spotted a small bar. It was packed with Friday night revelers, but I found a dark corner and collapsed into it. "Hello," a voice said. I looked up and saw Amanda, Sugar, standing there with 2 glasses in her hands. She placed one in front of me. "I thought you looked like you could use this," she said, smiling. "Thank you," I muttered, taking a sip of the strong drink. It burned all the way down. "It's called a stinger. And as you can see, I'm not exactly a religious girl," she said. "Religious?" I asked, confused. She smiled, a playful glint in her eyes. "Drinking at a singles bar with a gome on a Friday night. My mother wouldn't approve." I lowered my eyes, suddenly remembering my suitcase. "Oh, well, I had to leave. It's her apartment." Amanda didn't ask questions. Instead, she told stories, funny ones about herself, and people we both knew from bankruptcy court. She kept my glass full and tried to make me laugh. She must have known I was engaged, with a wedding mere days away. Yet she wasn't surprised to see me at a Brooklyn bar with a suitcase in tow. The night blurred after that. I vaguely remember her helping me into a car, saying something about not having far to go. Later, I dreamed of Eloise. She pinned me to the bed, enjoying herself far more than usual. The urgency to use the bathroom jolted me awake. Disoriented, I realized I had no idea where I was. The apartment was unfamiliar, and for a moment, my memory failed me. Then it hit me, sharp and painful. I had left Eloise behind. Where was I now? My head throbbed, stuffed with cotton wool, and I remembered almost nothing of the previous evening. I recalled entering a small bar on Court Street and seeing Amanda. But where was I now? Naked in an unfamiliar bed in a small room with barely enough space for a double bed. I noted signs that someone else had slept beside me. There was no closet, no visible clothes, just a door partially blocked by the bed. I opened it to find a larger room beyond. It was a converted English cellar, with half the windows below sidewalk level. The main room was split into a kitchen and dining area, with a bay window serving as a makeshift living room. I stumbled out in search of my clothes in the bathroom. Amanda emerged from another room, her hair wrapped in a towel. "Oh, you're awake," she said, noticing me. It must be almost noon. My hands instinctively flew to cover myself, which only made her laugh. "It's too late for modesty," she said. "I saw everything last night." I ran past her, assuming the room she came from was a bathroom. I was right. After relieving myself, I decided to shower. The water was hot, soothing my hungover body. Refreshed, I realized there were no towels. Wet and naked, I had no choice but to venture out again. Opening the bathroom door, I froze. Another woman, younger and dark-haired, was sitting at the table, grinning at me. Amanda was in the kitchen, fiddling with cups and a coffee pot. "How do you feel about coffee?" Amanda asked nonchalantly. I ducked back behind the bathroom door. "Can I have some clothes? Or at least a towel?" Both women burst into laughter. Amanda eventually pointed toward a closet near the front door. I dashed over, grabbed my clothes, and dressed as quickly as possible. The women continued giggling behind me. "That's my sister Sonia," Amanda said as I returned. "Hello, Mr. Stillman," Sonia said with a smirk. "Hello," I replied, pulling on my jeans. "You don't need to get dressed for me," Sonia teased. "I'm married with 3 kids. Naked men don't shock me." They laughed again as Amanda poured me a strong cup of coffee. Sonia's phone rang and she answered, speaking in hushed tones before announcing, "Aunt Sophie wants to meet you." Amanda groaned. "No, Sonia, don't." But Sonia handed me the phone, and I heard a cheerful voice on the other end. "Hello, Walter. I'm Amanda's Aunt Sophie. We're throwing a party tomorrow for my brother's birthday. I'd love for you to join us." Leonard, Amanda and Sonia's father, had a request. "We'd like you to come with our Mandy," he said. "Could you do this? It would mean a lot to the family." "I don't know. I wouldn't want to interfere," I replied, searching for a polite way to decline. "I'll leave it up to Amanda." I handed the phone back to Amanda, who argued with her aunts for a good 10 minutes. Sonia sat nearby, grinning mischievously as the women on the other end of the line took turns persuading her niece. Finally, Amanda relented. "Okay, I'll bring him," she sighed before hanging up the phone. "Sugar, sugar, sugar," Sonia teased. "She does that, you know." "What?" I asked. "She replaces curse words with sugar, as if we don't know what she's really saying," Sonia explained with a smirk. Smiling one last time, Sonia stood up. "Well, my work here is done. Time to head home and unload my husband before the kids drive him crazy." Left alone with Amanda, she turned to me and said, "Look, you don't have to go. My family can be a little overbearing." "I just don't understand why your aunts want to see a stranger at a family gathering," I replied. Amanda gave a short, almost sad laugh. "Sonia is my younger sister, almost 4 years younger. On my last birthday, I turned 30. She already has 3 children. My aunts and the entire family think I should already be married and pregnant. To them, my biological clock is ticking." She paused, then added, "They still don't really know me, though. Apparently, I'm of the wrong religion. But hey, at least you're the right gender." I nodded, unsure what to say. Amanda continued, "You see, I used to have a roommate here who helped pay rent, $1,350 a month, as you probably know. Junior bankruptcy specialists don't make much." I nodded again, understanding the limited salaries in our line of work. But something dawned on me. "There's only one bed. Was your roommate a woman?" "Yes," Amanda said. "But don't jump to conclusions. I'm not going to say I'm completely straight, but for me to have sex with a woman, I'd need to be a little drunk. Jessie, my former roommate, was different. For her, drinking wasn't just a factor. It was a necessity for anything to happen. She wanted a relationship I couldn't give her. And here I am, the almost straight Jewish spinster. I process her words, nibbling on a bialy, an onion-topped roll resembling a bagel but with a distinct dent in the center. Finally, I asked the question nagging at me. Were we together last night? Amanda burst into laughter. Yes, we were together. Although, I didn't really enjoy being called Eloise. Sorry, I said, my face burning with embarrassment. Don't be prudish. We were both a little drunk, she replied, smirking. Well, you were very drunk. I sipped my coffee in silence, trying to piece together how my life had taken such a sharp turn. Just yesterday, I was preparing for my wedding to Eloise. Today, I was sitting across from Amanda, casually discussing the previous night. This is too much, I said aloud. What is? Amanda asked. Eloise. And this, I replied. She didn't laugh. Instead, she said, You've had a rough time. Why not relax here today? I thought for a moment. I don't think I can stand being alone right now. If you don't mind, I'll stay. Amanda smiled. Fine. Let's make my heterosexuality worth it. And so we did. Back in bed, Amanda's enthusiasm caught me off guard. Wow, you really enjoy this, I remarked. It's been a long time since the last guy, she muttered. But not girlfriends? I asked out of curiosity. She propped herself up on her elbows, gazing at me. I've been with more women than men, if that's what you're asking. But it's not about sex. In a relationship, I need more than that. I need someone I can respect. How do I fit into that? I asked. You're a good person, Amanda said. You're honest, kind, and treat women as people, not objects. You're one of the good guys, a rare breed these days. Her words caught me off guard. We spent the rest of the day together, eating, talking, and falling into a rhythm that felt oddly natural. By evening, the aunts called again, reminding Amanda about the party. Mandy, don't forget to bring Walter. Everyone's excited to meet him. Sonia chimed in. He's not my boyfriend, Amanda clarified. Well, bring him anyway, one of the aunts insisted. Amanda hung up and turned to me. You don't have to go. What else am I supposed to do? I don't want to be alone, I admitted. She smiled faintly. All right, but be prepared for the interrogation. As strange as the situation was, Amanda was my refuge, a distraction from the mess Eloise had left behind. Amanda and Sonia's father, Leonard, and her aunts had called earlier, urging Amanda to bring me along to the upcoming family gathering. While I was reluctant and hesitant to interfere in her family affairs, Amanda passed the phone to her aunts, who argued with her persistently for 10 minutes. Sonia, observing the situation, grinned mischievously the entire time. Finally, Amanda gave in. Okay, I'll bring him, she said before hanging up. Sonia chuckled. Sugar, sugar, sugar. She does that, What? I asked, confused. She replaces the word sugar with obscenities, Sonia explained with a smirk. As if we don't know what she's really saying. Smiling one last time, Sonia stood and announced, Well, my work here is done. Time to unload my husband before my kids drive him crazy. Once we were alone, Amanda turned to me and said, Look, you don't have to go. My family can be a bit overbearing sometimes. I just don't understand why my aunts want to see a stranger at a family gathering. Amanda gave a short, almost sad laugh and added, Sonia is my younger sister, almost 4 years younger. On my last birthday, I turned 30. She already has 3 children. My aunts and the rest of my family think I should already be married and pregnant. To them, my biological clock is ticking loudly, but they still don't know me. And apparently, I'm the wrong religion, but you're the right gender. Amanda paused before continuing. You see, I used to have a roommate here who helped pay rent. Rent is $13,500 a month, as you probably know. and junior bankruptcy specialists don't exactly rake it in. I nodded, aware of the modest salaries in that part of the legal field. But there's only one bed. Was your roommate a woman? Yes, Amanda replied, but don't jump to conclusions. I'm not going to say I'm completely straight, but to sleep with a woman, I need to be slightly drunk. For Jessie, my former roommate, drinking was a deciding factor. She wanted a relationship I couldn't give her. And here I am, almost straight, the Jewish spinster. As I mulled over her words, I ate a bialy, a flat breakfast roll with a dented center topped with onion flakes. It looked like a bagel but wasn't quite the same. Finally, I asked the question that had been nagging me. Were we together last night? Amanda burst into laughter. Yes, we were together, although I didn't like being called Eloise. Sorry, I muttered, embarrassed. Hey, don't be prudish, Amanda teased. We were both a little drunk. Well, you were very drunk. I drank my coffee in silence, trying to piece together the strange twist my life had taken. Yesterday morning, I had been excited about my upcoming wedding to Eloise. By the evening, I'd lost her and found myself in Amanda's bed. This is too much, I said aloud. What? Amanda asked. Eloise. And the fact that I'm here with you, I replied. Amanda didn't laugh, but gave me a sympathetic smile. Listen, you've had a hard time. How about staying here today and relaxing? I considered it for a moment. I don't think I can stand being alone right now. If you don't mind, I'll stay. She smiled. Fine. We'll make my heterosexuality worth it. We ended up back in bed. Amanda's enthusiasm for sex surprised me. Wow, you sure like this, I remarked. It's been a long time since the last guy, she muttered. But not girlfriends? I asked. She propped herself up on her elbows and looked at me. I've slept with more women than men, if that's what you're asking, but it's not about sex. Nothing compares to a man in bed, in my opinion. But in a relationship, I need more than just sex. I need someone I can relate to, someone I respect. How do I fit that definition? I asked. You're a respectful partner in bed. It's obvious your fiancé put effort into improving your skills, she said. I bristled slightly but couldn't argue. Eloise had indeed taught me a lot. Amanda continued, You're a good person. I've been watching you. You don't hurt people if you can help it. You're honest and treat women as people, not objects. Good guys like you are in short supply. We spent the day together, ending with a quiet dinner and falling into an exhausted sleep. The next morning, Amanda's aunts called, reminding her about the party and insisting she bring me along. I don't know what Sonia told you, but he's not my boyfriend, Amanda clarified over the phone. Bring him anyway, Aunt Hester replied. As far as I understand, they're waiting for you, I said with a grin. You don't have to go, Amanda said again. What else should I do? I don't want to be alone right now, I admitted. Amanda agreed but warned me. You'll be subject to scrutiny and treated as a potential suitor. I laughed. Well, in a sense, I am the groom. But let's keep my personal problems a secret. Sounds good to me, Amanda said. For today, Eloise doesn't exist. But tomorrow, you'll have to deal with her. I sighed. I know. As Amanda's parents seemed aware of the situation, the rest of the diners were oblivious. Amanda, however, spoke up, saying, I've known Walter for some time and admired him from afar. When I found him that evening, lost and alone, I saw my chance to get to know him better. He was hurt by a truly evil woman. And yes, Mom, I love him. He's too good not to be in love with. While saying this, Amanda walked around the table and hugged me from behind. Uncle Morty chimed in. Well done, my niece, effectively closing the topic of Amanda and me. What happened afterward was a bit of a blur, except for the general satisfaction in the atmosphere. As we drove away in a yellow taxi, I turned to Amanda. Are you serious? I asked. What? She replied, clearly trying to avoid the question. I couldn't let it go. When you said you loved me, were you serious? The taxi seemed to fall silent. Slowly, Amanda raised her head and said, I love you. When I first saw you many months ago, I wanted you. But now, it's more than just attraction. I love you, Walter Stillman. 30 minutes later, I was arrested. Eloise, apparently, had sat in our apartment all Friday evening, waiting for my return. Where she thought I could have gone, I don't know. But when I hadn't returned by Saturday morning, she panicked. The wedding was scheduled for Monday, and the thought of me not showing up terrified her. In desperation, she contacted the one person who stood to lose more than she did, Rodrigo Ruiz, also known as Rodney Kaufman. Together, they began a search, utilizing the police. It took them a full day to interview bartenders on Court Street before they discovered that I had left the Shadow Lady bar in the company of a short brunette. Since Amanda and I had taken a taxi to her Cobble Hill apartment, the police decided to interview taxi drivers who had been working in the area that night. By late Sunday, they identified the cab that had dropped us off at Clinton and Congress, pinpointing Amanda's basement apartment. When the police found the dark and empty apartment, they stationed patrol cars to wait for our return. Upon our arrival, we were greeted by eager officers. Despite Amanda's objections, they quickly took me away. By midnight, I found myself in a small, unkempt room, handcuffed to a table. No one had yet explained what crime I was accused of. Then the door opened, and Eloise walked in. She looked as beautiful as ever. So you're responsible for this? I demanded, my tone harsh, my anger palpable. She seemed dazed, standing on the other side of the table. Despite 2 chairs on her side, she made no attempt to sit. Walter, please try to understand. When you didn't come home, I was worried something had happened to you, she said. That's why you had me arrested? For what? I shot back. You're not under arrest but under guard, pending a possible psychiatric evaluation, said a tall, strikingly handsome man as he entered the room. He moved toward Eloise with an air of authority. Despite his efforts, age was catching up to him, evident in his middle-aged features. Rodney Kaufman, I presume? I said, infusing as much venom as possible into my voice. Rodrigo Ruiz, he corrected, but you can call me Rod. I hope we can be friends. Friends? Mr. Kaufman, I have no desire to be your friend. That's a pity, he said with a patronizing smile. You're in a difficult position and could use my friendship. I raised my cuffed hand slightly, causing the chains to rattle. You can keep me here, but not for long, I said with more confidence than I felt. I hope long enough for you to listen to Eloise, he replied. Eloise finally spoke, her voice trembling. Walter, you're acting under the wrong impression. Rod and I are just friends. Whatever relationship we had is over. If you had stayed Friday night, I would have told you everything. We have a saying in Iowa, I interrupted. I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. I found you in his hotel room. Whatever it is the two of you have, it doesn't concern me. The wedding is off. Walter, please. Eloise cried. You can't do this. Rodney smiled coolly. Let's maintain composure. This doesn't have to end badly. How much will it cost to make Eloise Mrs. Stillman? You couldn't afford it, I replied coldly. At that moment, the door opened and a short, bald man entered with 2 officers behind him. I'm Cy Libowitz, your lawyer, he said, handing Rodney a paper. This is a copy of the writ of habeas corpus I just filed. Rodney sighed, clearly defeated. Cy brought me out, and Amanda was waiting for me. Her mother, the judge, had woken up a colleague to sign the order for my release. That was the last time I saw Eloise. The child she claimed to carry was never born. Whether it was due to a miscarriage or a deliberate decision, I don't know, but I suspect she prioritized avoiding scandal over having a child. As for Rodney's threats to ruin my career, circumstances intervened. On September 15, 2008, the day I returned to work from a brief leave, Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy, turning the financial world upside down. Eric Erickson became the firm's most important partner, and I became his go-to lawyer. Amanda and I married 6 months later, just in time, as she was visibly pregnant. That first weekend we spent together had unexpected consequences, and our eldest child, a girl, was soon joined by 3 more sisters. For it turned out to be enough for us. Amanda followed in her mother's footsteps and became a judge. I started my own firm. When people ask me the secret to my successful career and marriage, I tell them it all began with one day as a racetrack judge, one broken heart, and a girl named Sugar.